All right, Vinny Fisher here, back with another episode of Total CEO. Hey, everybody, I know we're in the throes of business, and we spend all this time worried about like how we get another customer, how we keep a customer. Well, I'll tell you, I am excited about the guests we have today. We've got a dynamic team duo that is a family duo, but they got something much bigger than that. And so they're going to be talking to us today about this idea of looking forward, being forward, and hacking it, I think, backwards, this idea of future hacking. And so really excited to have Bix and Joe Bickson on the show today. Guys, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Vinny. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, great to be
awesome.
here.
So, I've warned you, you've watched some of the shows, a little popcorn style. So you say something awesome. My job in the guardian of our community is to stop you, make you say something more about it, keep it moving. So you guys seem like blast. Before we jump into all that, our audience always likes to know who the heck I'm talking to. So which one wants to grab the wheel and give us a little commercial about who we're talking to?
Yeah, hi, this is Bix Bickson. First of all, thank you for the opportunity to be on the show, Vinny.
All right.
I've been consulting individuals and organizations for over 30 years, literally around the world. I've had the opportunity to work with some of the largest well-known brands in the world, such as
young
Starbucks.
As you are, 30 years? My gosh, like you.
I know. Well, I started very young. That's
okay.
right. Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, my dad would drive me to work.
Well, that was because there wasn't any cars, Bix. That wasn't because,
how did you know that? And so I've had the opportunity to work with these great brands of Starbucks and Microsoft and Lululemon and Guinness and all that. And it's really about what are the conversations that allow people to break out of limiting ways of acting, limiting ways of belief,
cool.
And really create and fulfill.
All right, so let me ask you a question. Give us a quick definition, because we're going to use this term, this keyword of future hacking regularly. So give me a 40,000 two-sentence view so we can follow along with what is future hacking.
The ability to create and fulfill the future of your choosing.
All right, so let me break that down. You mean I'm going to peg something out in the future, and then I'm going to reverse engineer it to today in order for that future realization to happen?
Yes, and as we know, this ability to imagine a possible future,
okay,
and then work backward to make more informed choices is a requisite for everything we call civilization. It's because of this ability that we take time to build tools, to plant seeds, or to store food for water.
All right, so this is so hard to do, right? Like, this is like, as an entrepreneur, I mean, I'm a marketer, right?
Right.
So for me to think 12 minutes, let alone 12 weeks or 12 hours or 12 months ahead and reverse back to today, how do you give me some of the basic blocks that you even get someone to first base in this line of thinking? Because this is different than what most people do on a daily basis. Would you agree?
We definitely agree. We'll start with a story.
Yeah, Vinny, I got to jump in here because, one of our favorite future hackers, this makes it real, is a guy named Shackleton, Ernest Shackleton.
Love the name. It's like a Shakespearean name.
Yeah, that's like
a book. It's great.
Oh, yeah. So the year's 1914 in London, this guy puts out a newspaper ad that says men and women wanted for hazardous journey, low wages, bitter cold, safe return doubtful. 5,000 people apply for this ad. 28-man crew sets off on a voyage to the Antarctic, the first ever attempted crossing of the Antarctic continent. This is 1914, we got to remember. So, I can't get into the whole story, but the long story short is 2 years, 2 years of survival, stuck on the ice, wearing seal skin and fur, absolutely drenched, cold,
starvation,
freezing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, completely. It basically the worst possible shit you could imagine. Right. is these guys survived, and so this is an example of, like you said, hard. This is an example of a future hacker that is absolutely unstoppable in the face of
So convinced of where he's going to go and
Yes.
knows the endurance he has to run through it. So how, like, I've gone on record to say so many times, guys, the hardest people to work with are the business owner entrepreneurs. As squirrely as we are, right? We are all over the place when it comes, right? I mean, it's a very lonely position to run your own business, isn't it? I mean, I don't care what size it is, very lonely place.
Right.
So what's the hardest part to get a business owner thinking like, because Ernst Shackelford was more of a pioneer than he was a business owner, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so how do you get a business owner to have a pioneer's mindset in future hacking?
Well, two things. First of all, usually when we walk into an organization, we are not the first consultants to walk in.
Okay.
Because we're either the 5th, the 10th, or the 15th.
Right.
And so everybody is rolling their eyes, looking at their iPhones, looking at the laptop, hoping that this is going to end soon and these guys will get out of here. Okay, so that's the first thing. So the first thing we do is we communicate our commitment to them in a way of saying who you are for us is already successful, intelligent, open, engaged, dedicated, committed human beings.
Okay.
So we're saying that for two reasons. Number one, it's the truth.
Right.
They wouldn't be there unless they were that way. And number two, we're committed to creating a relationship with them because we say they've already built a foundation, both in their lives and in their careers of success, of accomplishment, of commitment. And so we're not there to question that foundation that they've already built.
By the way, I get that. So you guys, I've heard some cool things of what we're talking about. So what I mean is, by the way, real quick, if someone they like what we're hearing so far and they want to find you, would they go to futurehacking.biz? Is that where you want them to go?
Yeah, futurehacking.biz, or download the Bix book, and that's at thebixbook.com.
Okay, cool. And so everybody in our show, those links will be down below for you. But if they want to just get a hold of you two, the best way is either go to the book or go right to your corporate site at futurehacking.biz.
Please.
All right, cool. So back to I guess what my question is people are going to gravitate towards two of my favorite new Canadian friends from Vancouver, or they aren't. But the way that I want to help them with, how do we help somebody future hack inside their business? Because once we help them understand this, the execution and implementation, they're going to have to hire guys like you, right? But this is new terminology because you hear a lot of personal developers, coaches, dancing around goals, missions, values. I'm on record to say that's not strategy. That's not strategy. Just because you have missions or you have values you stand for, you have some goals you want to get done, has no strategic alignment to it at all. And it's offensive, but it's true. But this thing of future hacking sounds more like strategy than it does some of that other personal development stuff. So how do we help today to our community get this idea of starting to implement future hacking in their business? Where would you start somebody?
Well, one of the first things we ask people to consider is that there's a lot of ways to talk about what's happening in an organization, what's happening in your company, what's happening in your business. If you go to the bookstore, when I started and I went to the bookstore, there was a very small section on leadership, management, and all those kind of things. Now, if you go to the bookstore, there's this rows and rows and rows of books on all these things. Now, and the difficulty is all the books, when I read the books and when I see the books, they sound so interesting. I go, oh, this author really gets it. This is fabulous. I love it. And if we all tell the truth to ourselves, we'll notice that there's a big difference between reading the book and then integrating, translating those ideas into our everyday action.
Gotcha.
What future hacking is a reliable pathway to translate what we call power. And power is the rate of translating ideas into actions and results.
Yeah, so I've always said, I say this in our mastermind group, I say this to our clients. I've said it 100 times on this show.
Yeah.
To me, there's two-part equation, and you're my new friend, best friend, Bix. There's a two-part equation to power, right?
Yes.
Knowledge plus action. It's powerless, either one of them by themselves, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. And so the difficulty with the books is they don't allow us to take those ideas and translate them into results with velocity. So what future hacking is a reliable pathway of ideas that immediately, I'm saying immediately. This is
right now.
Right now, that the people that we work with can take these ideas in a way that shifts the way they think and act immediately. So,
so what's the biggest tip we could give someone right now to help them be a future hacker?
Well, the first thing is to recognize that, and it's not bad and it's not wrong. The difficulty is when we went to school, most of the time we were taught, well, I agree with that. I don't agree with that. That's right. That's wrong. That's good. That's bad. I like that. I don't like that. And in our words, that's called a conclusion. And our definition of a conclusion is a place where you stop thinking. So we're inviting.
I must be filled with a lot of conclusions because I'm just not thinking. All right, keep going. I like this.
Yeah, you are. That's why we're talking. That's why we're talking to you. Right. So we're inviting people to recognize that for the most part, when we go to produce an outcome, the way we've been trained is to what we call hack the past. And it's of course, because it's all of our depth of experience, it's all of our knowledge, it's everything that we've done, what other companies have done in their lives. And the difficulty
plus we're probably avoiding fear of loss, fight or flight. I mean, there's all these things. It's experiential planning is what you're saying, right? We rely on that in a good and a bad way.
Yeah. And so, there's so many countless examples, and the famous ones are, Kodak and Blockbuster and BlackBerry.
I think the name of the show is going to be, do you hack the past or hack the future? This is great. So now I get it. Everybody, including me, we have this thing we've been trained. It's an axiom to hack the past.
Yeah.
So how do we start? I'm a new, fresh guy. How do I hack the future?
Well, the first thing is to recognize that you do. And one way to talk about that is that there's three mysteries in the world.
Okay.
Air to a bird, water to a fish, and humankind to ourselves. So when does a fish know about water? Question.
Immediately, right? Probably pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Well, as soon as you take it out of water.
I bet so.
Yeah, as soon as you take a fish out of water, then all of a sudden the water goes, oh, water.
Wow.
Right? And so we're asking people to consider this idea that the water we're swimming in organizations are all the conversations that are happening in that organization.
So in other words, we're having conversations that are historically based because our mindset is historically based. So
well said.
Once we remove the fish out of the water, it's like actually changing our mindset in the boardroom. We're going to think differently about the organism we have.
Yes, and that's the first step. So the first step of fundamental change is having a profound relationship with the way it is.
Okay.
And so we design a way that allows people in the executive suite or throughout an organization to, first of all, recognize all the conversations that they're currently having about what they need to accomplish.
Okay, cool. So that's okay. So the reason why I'm going to keep pushing you guys to
keep pushing. We like being pushed.
Why I'm going to push you is because what people want to hear from you is the meat of what you guys do. Because you know what? They won't do this without you. So the more we can help them think in this way, we're just giving them permission to call you at futurehacking.biz and find Joe and get Bix in the room. Now, how do you guys work as an organization? Is it you two? Is there a team? Who dives in and starts doing all the ugly work in the beginning where all the rolling eyes happen?
We're both, we do it together.
All right.
You talk about interviews or?
Yeah, we begin by, like Bix said, the first step is understanding what is happening. That's the first step of fundamental change. Have a profound relationship with the way it is. So the first thing we do is, yeah, go ahead.
No, I love that. So
Yeah.
I get it now. I mean, my slow brain hasn't been catching up. The reason why you keep going back to this is if I don't have self-awareness that we're thinking historically, how am I going to help you think futuristically, right?
Exactly. And the first step is, what are all of the conversations? As Bix said, the human beings are, we don't know the water we're swimming in. And so the first step is what is that water? And the way we talk about it is, their organizations have DNA, just like organisms. Organisms have something to tell them what they can or cannot do, and we call that DNA.
Yep.
And we think organizations have that same stuff. And so where is that located? Well, you can't look at it under a microscope, right?
Yeah, you don't find it in a process guide. It's not.
That's right. You can't dig it up in an archaeological dig.
Yeah.
And so what can you do? Well, you can go into an organization and you can listen to the kind of conversations people are having.
Now, have you noticed when you're in those conversations that there's potential that the executive team conversation is different than the entire team conversation?
Oh, entirely. There's all these levels of power within an organization. So the trick is that create a relationship with people. So when we begin by sitting down with the executive team individually or teams throughout the organization, whether it's on the, I've been to every place in the world, just about, whether it's the front lines in Indonesia or Arabia or China.
How about Cleveland, Ohio, baby?
Or Europe or Cleveland, right? And so the importance of creating a relationship with people, because we're not the first consultants that walked in there. So they're quite wary of who are you and what are you here for. So all of our work is based on creating a strong enough relationship that people can see, oh, I see, this is something that could really bring value to me.
Right. Yep. So here we are. So you help someone in that first conversation understand the water they're swimming in. So I'll just keep using your language back on.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, cool. So that relationally understand the language patterns, the way that this team communicates, what water are they swimming in?
Yes.
What's the next step after self-awareness?
Well, once people begin to see that almost entirely all the conversations that they're listening to are based in the past. And also we all know, because almost all of us watch sports every day, we know, what does a professional athlete train themselves with every day is they train themselves that no matter what's happening, what happened the moment before, that is not going to determine what's happening now. So no matter what the score is, no matter what move they make or they didn't move, that what it is to be a professional athlete and a professional executive and a professional any place in a company is to be present to what is happening, not what was happening. So we say something very strange. We say that the source of results is not experience, talent, ability, education. The source of results, we're asking you to consider this as an idea, not like the truth, that the source of results is being present. So if you watch these great athletes, no matter what happened, they just, it's baseball season, right? The batter got in the batter's box. He just swung and missed a ball. Now, if he now says to himself, oh no, I swung and missed. How am I ever going to hit another ball? What am I going to do? You know what's going to happen.
Are you West Coasters, Blue Jays fans, or do you guys root for the California leg?
No, Blue Jays. Joe was born in Toronto. We lived in Toronto.
All right, cool. All right. Well, have you forgiven us for whooping on you last year?
No. That's the second half of the podcast is we're going to go through an inning by inning conversation about how.
Hey, listen, don't worry. We'll give it another chance for you to feel even more bitter this season.
No.
We're on a tear right now, so it's going to happen again.
All I can say to you is the Chicago Cubs. Okay.
Why do you got to get hurtful, man? I was just trying to keep this among us, and so
yeah. So so what professional athletes train themselves, and all of us, Vinny, you train yourself that no matter what happens in the sentence before, you keep pulling yourself back to what's going to make a difference. So
one of my business partners does this, Bix. Like,
yeah.
He happens to be our CFO, but he's our partner, and he will say, well, you know what we did before? Like, that's going to define what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
Now, you have to give a little bit of room for, we are creatures of habit. So there is some truth that looking at the past is likely to define what you might do absent some new external circumstances changing that pattern of behavior, right?
Yeah, okay. But listen, for this, we've got this little bit of time together.
Yeah.
Okay? The past is a wonderful thing to inform you. It's a terrible thing to determine you. So once people...
I love that. That's like a quote, Bix. That's like your book quote of the year, right?
Right there. The past is a wonderful thing to inform you. It's a terrible thing to determine you. So once individuals, once teams, once companies recognize, oh, I see, almost all of our conversations are embedded in the past, then what we invite people to consider that what it is to be a human being, what it is that distinguishes us as human beings is we are the species that can invent, that can imagine, that can create, that can declare, and that can stand for an idea and act out of it. Every breakthrough.
I think where people are loving and going to stay with you guys is this idea of don't get your identity from past actions.
Yes.
I think, because I'll tell you, what happens is smart business guys, probably you guys, I'll just draft onto that for a second, is the reason we get in a little bit of trouble is I suspect what happens to you guys is when we start talking about some of this softer stuff, do you guys get dragged into some personal development talk where like people will confuse a little bit of that? Because the reality is business needs some of that, right?
Yes.
You need to, if the leaders aren't self-aware, how do we expect anyone else in the organization? Well, I think what's powerful, what's actionable is this idea of investing, inventing, and imagining, right? We can invest our time into changing our thinking. We can invent things, not rely on old stuff, and we can imagine something different than what we used to be doing. That's where your legs come, right? That's where you get sustained engagement. What's the hardest part?
The hardest part, first of all, we've been doing it long enough that we know if we can have people sitting down or in a room together, they will see, they will remember. And the word remember literally comes from remember, put back together again. What happens in organizations is corporate Novocaine, is that people either success dulls us or people say we never could do that here. So we have to pierce through that corporate Novocaine and have people remember they've got something to say about the way it goes. And when people see that they've got something to say about the way it goes, they have their voice again. And what you need, particularly in this disruption economy, in this disruptive world, is we need everybody in that organization knowing that they've got something to say about the way it goes.
So let me ask you a question. This is, by the way, we are with Bix and Joe Bickson from futurehacking.biz. And if this stuff's exciting to you, you got to check out what these guys are doing. Joe, you said you guys have a book out there, the Bix book?
Yeah, go to thebixbook.com and you can download it. It'll take you to Kindle. We got the book on Kindle.
Cool. So let me ask you a question, guys. With this framework, right? We identify whether you identify with the past or you're thinking forward thinking. With that, what signs would you say a leader of the organization should either be looking for, or what's the short checklist to say, whoa, I need to be dealing with this issue? What are the 3 or 4 indicators someone should be definitely like realizing we have a diagnosis problem?
Yeah, well, there's 2 things. Number one is that the leaders know that they have material outcomes.
I don't know what that means.
Significant outcomes that they are committed to accomplishing.
Well, but here's the thing. Let's just assume, Bix, that I believe that Fully Accountable is an amazing organization. We're doing all this awesome stuff. So I think it's melodramatic. I think most leaders already believe that what they're doing is significant, right?
Yeah, and also most leaders understand that they need every resource they can possibly find to continue to support them.
So that's everybody, right? Okay. So what are the 2 indicators, 1 indicator? Where do I realize that I'm having a historical identity versus future hacking crisis, and I need to pay attention to this? What are some of the things you guys have learned over time that, I guess what I'm getting at is, how does an organization know they need to be working on this? Because whether it's everybody or not, it's really impossible to serve everybody. So who are the ones who are in most need of surgery? 2, how do I even know what I'm looking for to know how to raise my hand to say, Bix, man, we need your help?
Yeah. So first of all, they've got outcomes that they need to accomplish that they know are important for themselves and for the organization.
Okay.
And people that have big enough, challenging enough outcomes, they know they need something. They know. So Brian Bulldog, who was the managing director of Guinness, said, I've got so much intelligence in this organization that is not getting expressed. Warren Smith from Starbucks said, I've got the best people I've ever had and the worst team I've ever had.
Great individuals, terrible as a team.
Yeah. Another fellow said, literally, we're locking the gates of the manufacturing area because we don't have enough business to continue.
All right, so listen, let's go back. Let's help our leaders here today.
Yeah.
Right? So now I'm sitting here. You've got my attention, Bix. Joe, I love what you guys are doing there. So how do I know, like, what should I go pay attention to that says, wait a minute, we are not thinking about, we don't even know what water we're swimming in, and we don't even know how to go swim in some other water. So what am I looking for?
You're sitting down with your team.
Yeah.
And you're saying to yourself, is this the team that could put the man on the moon? Whatever your commitments are. First of all, you've got it, you as the leader of Fully Accountable.
Yep.
What are you committed to that is challenging enough, worth accomplishing enough, not kidding enough, that it lights you up, right?
Okay, so now we get it. I've got to be almost electrostatically charged to want to go after this, what you called significant outcome. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, or you haven't had those conversations yet. You've got yourself to a place where you're going along, things are successful.
Yep.
And you're looking for what is that next opening. It's
funny you say that, right? We're just that makes a lot of sense to me, because here at Fully Accountable, we've grown this wonderful service company.
Right.
Our mission of wanting to double the size of 100,000 companies is not going to happen under our roof.
Exactly.
And so it occurred to me that I needed to take all of our resources, all of our tools, and equip all of the accounting professionals out there, not just my own. That significant thing is what burdens the heck out of us now, because we now need to go accomplish that.
Yeah.
Every day we're waking up fighting that fight, and it's hard, but I get it. All right. So we got that start, that piece. Yes. Then where do the wheels start falling off that we're like, man, we're right back to that traditional historical mindset?
Well, the first thing is sitting down with your team and having them say, if you're willing to consider that the DNA that Joe talks about of organizations is literally the conversations that are happening in the organization. That's an idea, right? Not telling you that's the truth. I'm asking you to consider it as an idea. Okay, then you're saying, well, what are the conversations that are happening? And there's 2 kinds of conversations that human beings are always having. We come into a meeting and we talk to each other, and we ask you to call those the foreground conversations. Then you walk out of the conference room and you go to the water cooler or the pub or wherever you're comfortable, and you have the background conversations. Which of those two conversations have more influence on your actions, Vinny?
Definitely the background.
Okay, so you want to engage in your business, in Fully Accountable, a practice. And future hacking is a body of practices that allow people to translate ideas into actions and results with velocity. So the first practice that you invite people to engage in is this practice of saying your background conversations in the meeting.
Love it.
It's uncomfortable at first because it's the best.
Well, I'll tell you, here we have a very open environment. And so I was able to answer that question so quickly because we are on that. But I'm with you, man. Like, even we're not impervious to this idea that the things that happen after Scuttle are where the real movers happen. Exactly. I love that. So how do you help someone? Because again, right, we're hired consultants. We kamikaze into an organization. What's the hardest part to have them get that water cooler conversation into the conference room?
It all lives in the commitment of the leader. We are not there for future hacking. We are there to fulfill, to support, to coach, to have your commitments realized.
Gotcha.
So if you're willing to stand up and say, here's where we're going, team, and I'm not kidding about it, then Joe and I will produce, create, invent, engage people in the ideas that'll have that occur rapidly. We're always working inside your commitment. So it's not like this future hacking thing. It's the Fully Accountable thing getting realized.
It's what's going on now, not what went on before. I get you. All right. It took me a few minutes to catch up to you, smart fellas, but I finally think I got it. Let me ask you a question. What's the hardest part of your business for you guys right now? What's the hardest part that of the doors blowing off, or where do you find your biggest struggle in the company right now?
I could say the biggest struggle is finding people that aren't kidding. Right?
You mean clients or team?
Yeah, clients. Finding people that, no kidding, are willing to understand, oh, I see, there's two things. Either I've got big outcomes to produce and I need every possible resource I can find to support me in doing that, or I've got to a place in my development as a leader that's not going to allow for this whole next level of accomplishment and success in my business.
Makes sense. So is it awareness of finding more people who aren't kidding, being aware of you guys?
Yeah, and also people, have gone through a lot of different kinds of programs and they haven't delivered. That's why we say the future hacking is the end of consulting. Right?
Well, that's funny. I can appreciate that, Bix. I always say here in our, we're a finance company, but, we date divorced people, right? Because they've had so many other accountants who've done whatever they do. And so when you date divorced people, you got baggage.
Yeah, exactly. And I love what you guys are doing when you say you're taking Quicken to really have it work in companies. I love listening to that when you guys
I mean, we take QuickBooks and we actually make it work, right? So we love the guys in Intuit and they love us, but it stopped at just entry level stuff. And so we added another layer on top of that, and it's great. And we're convinced that someday we're going to have more than just a general business relationship. And we'll figure that out as we future hack that. But I just did that for you. And so, hey, I'm here with Bix and Joe Bickson from futurehacking.biz. Guys, this has been great. Like, I have like 3 or 4 titles rolling through my head. And Bix, you just keep throwing out these like timeless, like, little statements. Joe, you should be plugging those around the office. This is good stuff. And like, those are like
Bickson.
headlines extraordinaire, man. Like after the
Yeah,
show downloads, you should just make sure you like have all of those. Those are really good.
We'll give you one more. Creativity is essential for solving complex problems. We all know that.
Yep.
The kinds we often face in the complex world. Second, we've had very little success of training people to be more creative. And there's a pretty simple explanation for this failure. We're trying to train a skill. But what we really need is to be training is a state of mind.
You know, I'll echo why you're right.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell you aren't because.
Yeah, tell us. We like it.
I have accountants, right? I have a staff of over 50. No one is ever going to accuse, just in like stereotypical statements, that accountants fall into the creativity column. They just aren't going to accuse them of that.
Right.
But the more freedom that I remove and put in place to allow them to think about helping business owners, I watch our accountants become more creative.
Exactly.
So I think it is not reserved for me, the marketer. It's everybody has creativity. I like that. It's not a skill set. It's a room and margin to thrive right where you are, right?
Yes. And it's phenomenal, Vinny, when people can remember, when people can see, oh yes, as a human being, I can invent. I can create. I can imagine. And to remind people, every breakthrough in their life was simply them standing on their own 2 feet.
Yeah.
And saying something is possible.
I love that.
And then a leader's job is to create a future and to build pathways for other people to stand in that future with them.
All right, so one of my favorite parts when I talk to my guests is, what is the one piece of wisdom that's happening right now in this season of life that you'd like to give some advice to prospects, clients? My whole community is filled with business owners, right? So
yes.
What's the piece of wisdom you want to give them right now?
Well, either people are going to be disrupted by the information economy, or we're going to disrupt ourselves. And the opportunity, the fun, the creativity, the enjoyment is, as a leader, to disrupt yourself, is to engage your company in ideas and in a future and a purpose that's really worth accomplishing. And there's a reliable way to do that. That's what future hacking is. It's a reliable way. We've been practicing for a long time, right?
So your piece of wisdom is to disrupt yourself.
Yes, absolutely. In a way that actually allows for the business to continue to grow and succeed and have the people in the business. The essence of it all is this business called responsibility. So I have a question for you.
Okay.
What's true? That my wife doesn't listen to me, or the way I'm speaking, my wife can't hear me. Which of those is true?
Well, it's kind of funny. It sounds like you talked to Debbie before this show. So my wife is always accusing me of, does anyone ever understand what the heck you're saying? So my entire marriage, that is the axiom of statement of our entire marriage. My wife's like, I'm convinced that no one knows what the freak you're talking about. So I know it, for me personally, I apparently must be saying things that no one else understands, because I hear that from my wife every day.
Yeah. So for the most part, what we call responsibility is blaming other people for the way it is. My wife doesn't listen to me, or the way I'm speaking, my wife can't hear me. So the moment you're willing to stand in your responsibility as that you're cause in the matter, you've got everything to say about the way people listen to you, the way what's happening in your business is happening. So what the essence of this power business is, when people throughout the organization can take responsibility for what's happening in the organization.
I think you just gave an amazing piece of advice on the marketing side of a business. I want to stop and back up. Everybody, did you hear what just happened there? Is it that people aren't listening to your message, or your message is so convoluted they don't know what the freak they're hearing? Marketers, if you didn't hear that, and you're the leader in your business whose job is to drive revenue and sales, You need to go back and pay attention to that, right, Bix? It's not about whether they're listening. They don't know what the freak they're listening to.
Yes, and having people throughout your organization recognize that that's true for them too. Oh, I see. Well, this client is like this, or this customer is like this, or this bank is like this. And the moment people can shift that, that's the profound shift. That's what's called transformation. Transformation is simply a shift.
I hope that more than my sister, your wife, and my wife make it to the end of this show, because this is some of the best stuff we've been talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh,
that's the heart of it. The heart of it is the shift in being cause in the matter. Instead of something outside of you determining you, you are got everything to say about the way it goes, and what's outside of you now informs you versus determines you. That's where you get the power.
All right, so we got to end it up. We're going to put the landing gear down. Joe, sorry that Bix has once again dominated the conversation.
Exactly.
I have a feeling that's happened to you before, so I'm going to let that be where that is. Guys,
what's the thing you say? Something about my life. Welcome to my life.
That's right. Welcome to my life. Yes.
Yeah. So, okay.
The
only reason that I'm not getting picked on for that is because I'm not letting it happen. But it's good. It's okay. Yeah. Hey guys, I really want to appreciate and say on behalf of the community, thanks for coming and spending time. I'll tell you, this idea of not being identified by your past, having a transformed life that looks inward and not outward. Bix, that's good stuff, man. Get on some more of these shows saying that, because guys, you want to put real action in place, you go find these guys over at futurehacking.biz, and I promise you it'll be a big part to your business, changing not only the ways you're asking questions, but watching teamwork take your company from whatever level it's at and moving it up a ratchet or two. Guys, thanks for being on the show today.
Vinny, thank you for your generosity, for the fun, and for your engagement the way you are. It's just been a blast. Thank you so
thanks,
much.
guys. See you later.
Right.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.